Hello, and welcome to Ellroy Reads. This is the show where every week I look at a book that was an influence to James Ellroy, a book that thrilled him, moved him, inspired him. Before I get to the book for this week, I just want to give you a little note from our sponsor, Bloomsbury. Love Me, Fierce and Danger, The Life of James Ellroy is the thrilling, chilling, tea-spilling biopic of James Ellroy, one of the greatest novelists of all time. A lot of people who watch this show tell me that they bought the book because they subscribe to this show and they love this show. And if you haven't bought the book already, buy it today. You will love it, guaranteed. Okay, so the book for this week's episode is 6 Days of the Condor by James Grady. Okay, James Grady is Montana born and bred, and he studied journalism at the University of Montana before moving to Washington, D.C. on an internship. He worked for Senator Lee Metcalf. And there, as a very young man, he began to learn the workings of government, and he began to learn a lot about the intelligence community, which was to inspire this book. And this book is actually based on a real department within the CIA. Our lead character, Ronald Malcolm, codename Condor, works for a kind of off-the-books spy group in the CIA whose job it is to read everything that's ever been published, particularly spy and mystery novels, and to accrue data and cull ingenious operations and plots from these books. And it's fairly, dull, painstaking work, but one day Condor is sent out. They work from a safe house in DC. Condor is sent out to get lunch, and when he comes back, the entire group of about a dozen spies who work from this house have all been assassinated. They've been shot to death. Now, Condor is on the run. He has to call in. He does call in, and then he narrowly escapes death again. And from that point on, he doesn't know who he can trust. Over the next 6 days, he takes a woman hostage. They end up having a romance. And we have a number of great set pieces. I mean, the attack on the house is a fantastic set piece. Condor being called in is another heart-stopping set piece. There is also a set piece of a postman doubling as an assassin, which gives new meaning to the term going postal, which is absolutely wonderful. It begins to run out a little bit of steam towards the end, but it's a short novel. It keeps up the pace, I'd say 90% of the time. It's really, really astonishingly good. And Grady became friends with James Ellroy in the mid-1980s. They met in the Mysterious Bookshop, which is where Ellroy met a lot of friends back in those days, and where he would socialize with a lot of authors, Andrew Vax, Jonathan Kellerman. And Ellroy was really fascinated by Grady's story as an author, and he loved 6 Days of the Condor. And he was a little bit jealous of Grady's success story then, not so much now, because Grady was really kind of on his uppers when he wrote 6 Days of the Condor. He was working on an internship. He didn't get paid much. He was doing every job under the sun. He was shoveling dirt on roads, was one particular job he recalls. And he wrote the book. It ends up being picked up by W. Norton. And he was paid $1,000 advance, which is not bad, but not that much either. And he was actually trying to fix his shower using duct tape. That's how broke he was when he gets a phone call. Dino De Laurentiis had bought the film rights to 6 Days of the Condor. It's going into production right away, and his end of the film sale was $80,000, and this was in early 1970s money. So he really was just catapulted to the top. And 6 Days of the Condor became the film 3 Days of the Condor, directed by Sidney Pollack. Pollack told Grady they had to reduce it to 3 days because showing 6 days on film was tedious, showing people going to bed, getting up, going to bed, getting up. And it actually works greatly because of the sense of the chase narrative works on screen. It is a modern spy classic, both in book, read the book first, and the film itself with Robert Redford as the Condor, Faye Dunaway, Cliff Robertson, Max von Sydow as this absolutely chilling professional assassin. It is a classic. And when I was writing Ellroy's biography, he told me he was good. He was very good friends with Grady. And I reached out to Grady on Facebook, and he got back to me on Facebook. And it doesn't usually happen that way, which is interesting. And Grady was an absolutely fantastic guy. He's a very kind of guy who was in earnest. He married Bonnie Goldstein, who worked for Senator Howard Metzenbaum. And the reason that's important is when Ellroy's documentary came out, James Ellroy, Demon Dog of Crime Fiction, the first of many documentaries that have been made on Ellroy. This one was an Austrian production. It came out in 1993. Actually got a theatrical release, it played at film festivals and that sort of thing. And it was going to play at the AFI in DC, which at the time was kind of a rundown place, and Grady had been there a few times. He knew that the audience turnout was usually very low. So what he did is he and Bonnie got together as many DC civil servants as they can, as many staffers, as many aides, senatorial and congressional aides as they could muster. And they went to the AFI, and the screening was packed. And all of these people knew very little about James Ellroy. I mean, they're DC people, and obviously Ellroy wasn't hugely well known then. The documentary comes on, it's playing for a little while, and on screen, Ellroy's talking to camera, he's doing his shtick, and he's doing his demon dog shtick, which I'm not going to repeat on screen because I think only he can do it, but it's like highly offensive, kind of almost like a rap style monologues, like throwing vitriol at everyone, but in a kind of good natured way. And the audience at DC are absolutely shocked at this. I mean, these are people who are trained to be very careful about what they say at all times, in case a journalist hears it, in case a voter hears it, wherever, and probably worse now in the age of iPhones. And right at the back of the audience, they hear this bellowing laughter. And it's Ellroy laughing at his own shtick on stage. And he was laughing at it throughout. And then when the film ended, Grady told me some of these DC staffers were, couldn't wait to get out of there. They were absolutely appalled at what they'd just seen. But, Grady and Ellroy had a great friendship. And I think it was almost a role reversal because Ellroy started small, but gradually, bit by bit, built himself into this, phenomenally successful writer. Grady was only like 24 when 6 Days of the Condor came out, 3 Days of the Condor, the film series, came out, and he had this massive success. And he was very candid with me that he struggled to match that success going through his career. There have been a few more Condor novels. He did a Watergate novel. He said that Ellroy encouraged him to write. He said that Ellroy also encouraged him to change agents at one point, and he's like, that was a mistake, but hey, this is about James, let's not talk about me. He was just very, very candid. And at the end as well, he said, he said a couple of things that really stuck in my mind. One was that he was concerned about Ellroy's, mental health at one point. He said, he asked him about his gun collection. When he was living in Kansas City, he would call him, and he's just like, you got so many handguns, what do you do with them? And Ellroy was like, I just stare at them. And he said it was kind of chilling, and then if you read The Hilliger Curse, Ellroy does say at one point during one of his breakdowns, the first thing he did when he felt this panic attack come on is get all the ammunition in the house and just throw it out, get rid of it, because he was worried that he might do something stupid. And as well, Grady said the last time he saw Ellroy was at a book event for Perfidia in DC. Grady went along, and Ellroy was kind of a bit cold, a bit stiff with him. And his new best friend at the time was the guy who did the event with him, which was Thomas Malone, who's another great guy. And he's just like, I came away just sad that I'd lost a really good friend, and I said, well, hey, I know Ellroy's cut people off very abruptly, so I mean, maybe if the friendship fizzled out, that's the best way for it to happen, no worries. But Grady was an absolutely great guy, and 6 Days of the Condor is an absolutely marvelous novel, and the other Condor novels are very good too. And read this novel and just think about this guy's success, going from a guy nobody had heard of a first time off to absolutely being blown into the stratosphere, and has been the rest of his life, maybe not quite living up to that, but hey, it's a hell of a debut. It's a tough act to follow. Okay, thank you very much for watching today's show. Hit that subscribe button for more content delivered right to your inbox. Okay, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Ellroy Reads. Okay, bye bye.